All right, welcome IEPPV friends and those outside. We got TWIP, we got PPOC, we got PPLAC, we got people from all over the place. So welcome everybody for coming to the show. This is a monthly program that IEPPV hosts with Steve and myself. It's the first Wednesday of every month. So if you don't bother to look at the website, just know the first Wednesday of every month, we got something happening here. Today, we're going to be having Darren McBurnett. He's going to be talking to us about his photographic journey as a Navy SEAL. Not so much the Navy SEAL part. We're going to talk photography because that's what we like to do. He's laughing because he mentioned everybody wants to talk about being the Navy SEAL. Before we get too far into this, I do want to mention that next month, we do have another great event coming up, another speaker. And I got just a little bit behind on my notes. We have Jack Reznicki and Ed Greenberg are going to be talking. They are from the copyright zone. So we're going to talk about how to protect your images and how to watermark them and why it matters and all that other stuff that you want to do. So without any more from me, let me introduce my co-host, Steve Brazel. Steve's going to wave.
What's up, everybody? Good to see everyone, and thanks for stopping in. I am so excited. I've been chomping at the bit to get Darren on to talk to you guys because you're going to absolutely love him.
Right, right. And then, of course, we have Darren. Darren McBurnett, thank you. McB, I hear that a lot.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
I haven't
McB.
been told that I'm allowed to use that, but I read it on your website.
I know, right? Thank you.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So welcome, good sir. I do appreciate you setting aside some time for us. And for those of you who have just come in, any questions that you have, throw them in the chat. We'll open those up for later. Otherwise, everybody's microphone and cameras are muted. We're going to get started with, Steve and I were kind of kicking around this idea of what do we talk about before the show, right? Like, what do we want to get into? And I'm a huge fan of black and white. On some of the communities I hang out with, there's some debate about color in black and white. And then if you open up Darren's book, it's full of black and white. So who better than for, yes, there we go. So Darren, help us solve that question. Black and white, color, when, why?
Well, it works on that photo right there. That's for sure. Yeah, we talked about, you know what, like I said, to me, it's time and place, man. I really do. It's like because there's so many pictures out there. It's like that one with the splash right there with the IBS going out. That one should have been in color. You know, I just think it's time and place.
Hold on. Now I got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Why do you look at that picture now and say that should have been in color?
Because in my head, it's like all I see is the blue ocean and everything else. And, you know, I really love black and white. I love the dynamic of it. I love the high contrast. I love it really works on some images. And then you kind of force it to work on all the images and it just doesn't. But you're like, I love black and white. So we just push it in there, you know. But I think now that I'm after all of this, I just think there's a good time and place for it. And if it really makes the image pop, if it really sets the emotion on the image, then black and white is just definitely the way to go. For me, it's like 75% of my images are black and white because you can just see more. There's more emotion there, but damn, color images look good.
See, and I've always been of the mindset. And Troy, I'm curious what you think of this. Here's my mindset on black and white in one kind of summed up thing. Black and white works when it's advantageous to remove distraction of color and break it down to shape or emotion is really what it comes down to me.
Yeah, if color's not adding to the image, then consider making it monochromatic. I always have played back and forth with monochromatic images. I started by learning from Ansel Adams and learning the zone system and learning to print in a dark room and printing black and white. So I tend to want everything to be black and white all the time, but my brides don't want all their images in black and white. But I do love it. And you know, there's a lot of people that don't spend enough time experimenting with monochromatic images.
Yeah.
Whether it's black and white or it's sepia toned or it's blue toned. So
I agree completely.
I 100% agree with you on that one. I really do. to me, you hit the nail on the head on that one, is like the time and energy it takes to actually explore an image. And I found some of my best images. You just start exploring. Like you'll go into sepia, do duotones, and just start messing around with it. And then when you start actually investing that kind of time into an image and really explore the parameters of where you can go with the image, yeah, you'll find, I found images that this is the best image ever. And all of a sudden I tried something else. I'm like, wow, that looks so much better that way. And yeah, 100%. You nailed it. That's exactly right.
I think also black and white done correctly can take equally as much time, if not more time, than processing a color image. Those gradations, that choice of sepia or whatever, is so much, detail in the shadows matters so much when you don't have color to support something.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Right. So Darren, when you're taking a photograph, when you're in a particular environment and you're shooting the scene, do you see that image finished? Like, do you look at that and say, oh, that's going to be a black and white image?
Yeah.
Or do
100%.
you do? Okay. So you pre-visualize what you want that to be.
Yeah. I know exactly when I'm shooting something, I know the end state. I have like that was when I was on Steve's show, I learned everything backwards. And so I have it as an image in my head. I see exactly what it's going to be. And then it makes it a lot easier when I dump it in and start editing, and getting for post process. But yeah, I just took a while and just like, oh, we'll see what this turns out. That's just the way my mind works. It's like, yeah, I see this image. And then sometimes I see it in my head, and then I start editing. It's like, well, that's not at all what I thought it was going to be. Well, that sucks.
That's
something else.
That's how they all work.
Epic fail.
So did you start shooting as a SEAL? Were you photographing at the time, or was that something that came later?
No, that was in my actually it was somewhere in my presentation. I think I had that. Yeah, I had it going down.
Oh, okay. So let's save that.
We don't even have to do the presentation at all. I mean, this is actually a little bit better because we got I can bring it up and do specific things that
the reason
Troy,
that I asked
before you do that, let me do this really quick, because I do want to make sure, for those that came in late, I want to make sure people understand who Darren is. So Darren is a 24-year Navy SEAL, retired. Yeah. So veteran, speaker, photographer, all of that. SEAL platoon leader. Award-winning photographer. His clients include, like for consulting and stuff like that, Nike, National Geographic, Rolling Stone, the movie Act of Valor, CBS SEAL Team, and nonprofit creator, which we'll get into as well, and author. So I just want everybody to understand, SEAL career, but amazing photographer.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's been I like the journey where I am now with photography. It's if you're, to me, it's almost it's coming in full circle. Of course, when I first started, I went to it's like 8 months into it. I went to the Photoshop World Convention out there in Vegas, and this is like 2007 or something, and I'm just learning Photoshop, just learning the camera. And I went, and then I just remember one thing that Joe McNally said, and he was speaking. He goes, don't try to impress everybody with your work and what you're doing right off the bat. Is like, you have to go in, you have to grind. And you grind, and you find who you are, find your vision, and you may never publish anything, you may never get a photo out there, but if you stick true to your vision, and it's going to be work. It's not going to come naturally. It's not going to come easily, and I took that and I went back, and then that's what that in the back of my head, it's always been there. And now I'm finally at that point that he talked about back in 2007. It's like, oh, okay, I did the journey also as a SEAL. SEAL's primary job, but there was gaps in my photography career. One of them was a 5-year gap. I got done teaching free fall out in San Diego. Then I got sent out to the middle of CENTCOM, which is the Middle East, for 2 years. I augmented SEAL Team 1, 3, and 5. That's like basically 3 back-to-back deployments in a row to come back to do a workup with SEAL Team 3, to deploy with SEAL Team 3 again. you know, so it was 5 years. I remember pulling out my camera going, oh, all right, well, I still got the 5D Mark II. What version's out now? You know, it's like,
well, the reason that I asked you about whether you started your photographic career like when you were in the SEALs or not was because, you know, I think that if you would have learned a lot later, there's this idea that if you learned digitally, like if you learned Photoshop and then you learn to put your photos into it, you always create that way, right? Like you always create and then Photoshop will fix it later. If you learned long time ago, back when Photoshop maybe wasn't accessible to you, started in film, then you're more likely to create visually and pre-visualize your shots, and then you use your post editing to tune your images.
I agree. You know, I mean, I started, like I said, I had, you know, gotten the SEAL teams, graduated SEAL training in 1996, you know, and I got to SEAL Team 2, and then it's just, you're a Navy SEAL, man. What can I tell you? You're doing some, you did the work, my first workup, you know, I mean, I went through buds. We started with 200 some lads, and we ended up graduating like 23 of us. You know, 18 of us made it out of Hell Week, and that was only the 5th week, you know, but, you know, jumping forward, you know, all of a sudden my first deployment with SEAL Team 2 was Kosovo crisis. You know, right off the bat, we're doing combat hydros, tomahawks going over our heads, you know, snipers taking pop shots at us, you know, we're in the water, like, you know.
So what got you to pick up a camera? What got you to want to take photographs?
What happened with that was, so it's, you have to understand how the Navy works a little bit. So, it's called a 5 and 2 rotation, right? So when you're in the military, the 5 and 2 rotation, it's 5 years of deploying. That means you're actively deploying. The Air Force has the same ratio. I think the Army just is the same one. Once you're actively deploying, that you're going overseas, you're actively participating in conflicts, wars, whatever it is, but it's supposed to be 5 and 2. That's 5 years of that. Then you get 2 years where you're back at the command or some subsidiary training command that you train new SEALs coming in, learn new skill sets, go to new schools, learn more skills, and then go back out there after that 2 years, like advanced training. You learn a lot more leadership, a lot more tactics. And then you go out as a senior enlisted advisor or platoon leader, and then you go out. So, but we had so much conflict when I went to Kosovo. Next thing you know, it was like next deployment Kosovo again, and then it was Afghanistan. Oh, now we're back to Iraq again. It's like boom, 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 back. So I didn't get my break until 2006. So it was a decade of wars and conflict and deploying, you know, and that whole was a long road, to say the least. But got done with that. And then my duty that I was given after that was military free fall school. And I had just learned how to jump in my last platoon. So it wasn't like I was very good at military free fall. The military free fall is not where it's like you see a little parachute, you know, you see like the static line where they just push you out like the Army does, like Normandy. You saw the parachutes coming out static line. It's 800 feet. The parachute's attached to you, attached to static line. You jump out and it automatically deploys parachute for you. You go down 800 feet and you land. It's, you know, that tactic's like very antiquated. It's used for, you know, exactly what it was used for in World War II. And then it's like taking over big, massive areas of insertion platform. And so we go Halo, it's high altitude, low opening, where you get out at 15, 16,000 feet. You go all the way down, you pull at about 4,000, you steer your parachute into the landing DZ, and then you go in and do your mission. So for me, that was my school that I got sent to be an instructor for. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You know, I didn't even like static line. But anyway, so I did that, and I went out to Yuma, Arizona, and I was there for 3 years, which is a great break, by the way. I'm like, thank God, you know, and here I am. I went to advanced military free fall school, and you had to get all these quals. It just doesn't happen. You know, I mean, I was a basic jumper. Then it was like basic jumper, static line. And then I was military free fall qual, then static line jump master, free fall jump master, advanced military free fall, DZSO qualified, water DZSO qualified, special warfare ops trainer, air ops trainer examiner, you know, air ops trainer.
So you were training. So
Yeah.
all that you were doing was training so you could make this book. That's what it was, right? Well,
yes,
I mean, but
sort of. That's no,
kind of.
All that. You're right. All that got there. So I had all the skills to jump out of an airplane and teach people and land safely. Okay.
Right. But so that you could photograph it the best way possible.
Yeah, that's it was a great training ground for that. I'll be honest with you. I got something very, very unique. Was so I just remember I was on the floor and doing everything, and I just remember there's nothing better. I'm telling you right now, when you're standing on that ramp at 5:15 in the morning and it opens, sun comes in, and you're like, this is freaking incredible. I'm like, I can't even believe I'm getting paid for this. You know, I mean, you look out, there's the whole desert. It's just painted with vermilions and reds and yellows, and it's a gorgeous freaking view. You know, I just remember just standing there with my students. I'm like, dude, look at that. That's freaking beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous, man? You know, students like, he's scared. Like, he's going to jump for the first time, 16,000 feet. I got my little parachute on. I'm like I'm Julie. You know, I feel like I'm Julie Andrews, like, look at it, it's beautiful, you know, and you know, and like, oh, by the way, go and push him out the ramp.
Is that what caused you, that looking at that painted desert, is that what caused you to go, I need a camera in my hand?
Yeah, I was like, I said, man, somebody should take a picture of this. You know, it's like, I need a picture of this. This is really freaking cool. And of course, no one like, really, dude, you want a picture of this? It's like, it can't happen. I'm like, oh, damn, you know, and then, but I really wanted, but also what I thought really fascinating is you got to understand the concept of what we're doing. Okay. We're teaching people how to do that insertion platform. So you're jumping on an airplane, 16, also up to 25,000 feet. You know, you're free falling down, you're pulling up parachute. Sometimes you pull it really high, like 10,000 or above, and you can fly in 7 or 8 miles to your insertion platform. I mean, that's what it is, you know? And what I thought fascinating is you're the instructor. You're the guy that's making sure this guy doesn't die out of the airplane. You're flying with him. He's flying. He's doing all this stuff, and you're working. So while you're falling, basically 120 to 146 miles an hour, screaming toward the earth for 55 seconds, you're actively concentrating on making sure your student is doing the right thing, and you're working. You know, so I thought that was fascinating. Like, I'm actually working up here. Did anybody realize that we're screaming toward the earth and we got 2 chances to live, our main and reserve? You know, and we can literally die every time we go up here. Does anybody grasp that concept? You know, and so when you watch instructors do working with students, it just that you know, it's like that fascinated me, that you're working in the air with this high stress environment, that every time that airplane takes off, every time you jump off that ramp, you can die. So
here's a question. Here's a question. One of the things I've always understood was Navy SEAL training is, I don't want to use the word secret, but you know, you see the pictures. The only pictures I've ever really seen until your book was documentaries where maybe they'll show somebody ring the bell that they want out, or maybe a little bit, you know, around the compound, but nothing in detail. And then you come along and you're allowed to take pictures of this. Why? Why were you allowed?
Well, a couple things. To be very brass, because I was freaking good at it. You know, that was it. That's how I got picked. I mean, it's not picked. It was just, you know, I mean, a lot of times frame happened for what I just talked about to get to the end book. But a lot happened in there, and that journey was like, you know, it was something else. But yeah, I approached everything as a Navy SEAL would. It's like, hey, if I want to do this, I have to do it correctly. I need to make sure I do it correctly, and that's always been my path, you know. And so, so if we're gonna jump forward, we'll get to the end where I did this. Is I just simply got asked. It was like my last duty station before I was retiring. I retired after 24 years. My last year and a half, you know, how the Navy works, you usually get your last 6 months where you're just kind of like off. You're basically doing medical to get out, making sure you're transitioning out of the military. And that was my time. And so my reputation as a, you know, obviously SEAL, but also, hey, that guy's really good at taking pictures, you know? You know, I was kind of like, oh, you're that oh, dude, oh yeah, you take pictures, man. Hey, you know, and then you get asked all this stupid stuff. Hey, can you come photograph a wedding for me, bro? And I'm like, no,
You
no.
know what I just realized, Darren? I just realized you might get asked to photograph weddings, but I'm never going to get photographed to photograph jumping out of an airplane. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, see my point? It's like, it's not natural. It's not natural.
No.
So,
No.
I mean, that's how I got to do the book, is just the fact that, you know, right place, right time, and right people. It's like, oh yeah, hey, so we had this project that we want to do. And, you know, it was work between 3 commands, like the center, which is your basic command, which is BUDS, and then your ATC, Advanced Training Command. And they worked with what was called a scout team. I mean, our scout team, it sounds kind of funny, but our scout team is basically a small command that's attached to WARCOM, our Naval Special Warfare War Command, who's in charge of all of it, and Group 1 Naval Special Warfare. I know it's a lot of stuff, but their whole thing is to recruit people that can make it through BUDS, that have the highest possibility chance that they can get through BUDS. And that's their whole job. And what they do is they photograph, they video, they take tests, they get all these candidates coming in, you know, and they're the ones that were originally in charge of it. And they're like, McBee, we want video. We know having a unique look. But we also want photographs of everything. And I'm like, and I just got a pacemaker put in. And I remember the call. Duncan Smith was his name. He's a freaking awesome guy. He was our commanding officer at the time. Calls me up. He goes, hey, this is the plan. This is what we want to do. You know, and I like got my pacemaker in, you know, and so I'm wrestling. I remember I had a robe on. I'm drinking a Coors Light, sitting back, and I'm watching. Remember that show, My Name Is Earl? I'm watching that show, My Name Is Earl. Remember that one?
Wait, there's just so much that we need to unpack right there. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Sitting in your robe, just got a pacemaker, drinking a
Coors Light.
Okay.
All right. So I'm kind of like the Big Lebowski. I'm sitting there. I'm like, you know, watching My Name Is Earl, and I get a call from Captain Smith. I'm like, shit, I'm in trouble. Damn, what? So I call him. He tells me what he's going to do. And I was almost like, it was straight out of the scene of Major League. I'm like, I don't know, sir. I'm kind of just sitting here. Got to sell some white walls. No, you know, thanks. But so he told me what he wanted to do. So the next day I get up and I go out and I meet up with them, and that's his plan. And I'm like, all right, but they already had a team doing this. Okay, they had 3 guys assigned to photograph and video. They had a big truck that says scout team, you know, and they're qualified. Basically, they're like civilians that with contracting jobs, that they have to know to edit. They have to be able to photograph, video, you know. And it was really weird. It's like it's its own command on how to. Their whole job is to take pictures, video, and put it out there to get people to come in. And then the other side of the scout team takes them all in, takes all their scores, and trains them. And I just went in there, and of course they're all snobby. It's like, why do we need a SEAL to show us how to do stuff? We're experts. Yeah, and I showed them in about like fucking 3 days how much they didn't know. And then they just dumped it all on me, and then like, here you go. I'm like, you got it, man. You know, it's like, if you're not going to do it right, then beat it. I don't need you. You know, just take a hike. So,
well, you told the story though. You told the story to me that somebody that wasn't in your shoes, you know, so that somebody that's not in your shoes could understand it. So 2 things really quick. First of all, I want to tease the giveaway that we're going to be doing. But first of all, Frank Peel asked in the chat, how many jumps total have you done?
Over 6,000.
Okay. So here's the deal. This book that I've been showing, this is Darren's book. It's called Uncommon Grit. And I've got a copy of this thing. This thing is amazing. This photography is amazing. And everybody who walks up to Darren wants to talk about his SEAL career. But I'm just telling you, the conversation with Darren to me is this. He has an eye for photographic composition when you look through this book, like very, very few people have. So with that in mind, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a contest. We'll give you details at the end of this show. But what we're going to do is we're going to give away a copy of Darren's book. And you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to create a photograph, basically a photograph that tells a story. You're going to submit those to us. We'll give you details on how you do that at the end of the show. You're going to submit them to us. There'll be a 2-week window to do it. We're going to put those pictures in front of Darren. Darren is going to help us pick the winner. And then at the next show, we're going to announce who won the book, and we'll order the book and have it shipped to the winner. So get ready for that. Get ready for the details and participate, because trust me, you want this book.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I get to see other people's stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And so again, Darren, it's going to have to be a picture that tells a story, like what Darren kind of does in this book. Troy, do you want to get into Darren's presentation now, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, let's get into some of the photography and talk about some of your imagery and kind of see, what you've created and where that's going for you.
Buds used to be able to, because half our training was done on public lands. I mean, just because we had the compound, we didn't own the ocean. So ocean, you go down, you had the Hotel Del, all that's public land. This is public state beach all going around, going across. So a lot of our training that you can just, during rock portage, we're out there on the rocks and people just stand there with cameras and there's nothing to do about it, and the big thing about understanding about SEAL training is the fact that it is not top secret. Our basic buds, basic underwater demolition SEAL training is not top secret. It never has been.
What does BUDS stand for?
Basic underwater demolition SEAL training. And so it's like half it's done on public land. So, and you can Google BUDS or Navy SEAL training and thousands of videos and pictures, millions of them show up. I mean, it's only when you get done and start doing advanced tactics and get into the SEAL teams when you start, that's where basically things start getting a little bit tight, and so, and that's where that's where everything is locked down. But in BUDS, you got to understand that you're just a candidate. You're not a SEAL, and that's what most people get confused about. It's like, I hate to be mean, but it's the truth. Navy doesn't care about you while you're a BUD student, because we know there's a 90% chance you're going to quit. All right. So they're not going to invest any more time or anything else into you, because, you're going to wash out, and so, it's pretty callous, but that's just the way it goes. We don't really care until maybe you get to second phase. We kind of care a little bit. Third phase. All right. You may make it, and then you move on. So anyway,
yeah. So tell us about this image you're sharing right here.
Oh yeah. So this was my last platoon. My last deployed platoon was SEAL Team 3. I'm the good looking guy with sunglasses with a gun.
Which is like four. I had to look around a little bit. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah. I have body armor on. Can you see me now?
Oh yeah. You're the one in front of the helicopter. Okay, got it.
I'm the guy in front of the helicopter with a gun. I just, like I said, people ask me how I got into like SEAL training, but it was just graduating college, joined the Navy just to join the Navy and do something else. Cause I had a liberal arts degree, so I know a little bit about everything, but not enough about anything. So military was a good choice, but, it was interesting. But I do have a video of SEAL training if you guys want to see it. This is basically a day of BUDS. Okay. A day of BUDS.
Yeah. Let's go through let's go through your images.
Which ones? I got to cycle through them.
Go. Well, whatever you got.
Well, they're all through all of this. Let me see. So I probably did this whole presentation wrong, as a matter of fact. Let's see.
So Steve, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to be doing for the giveaway?
Okay.
Yeah, tell me what we're going to do in the giveaway. Okay.
Yeah, so while he brings that up, couple things. First of all, the book is Uncommon Grit, and you can find that at Darren's website if you want to go look at the book or anything like that. McBurnett, that's 1 R 2 T's, McBurnett.com will take you there. What we're going to do is a simple contest where you're going to have to create an image that tells a story, something photojournalistic, but it doesn't have to be wartime. And some kind of an image. At the end of the show, Troy will give you the URL where you're going to submit it. You'll upload your image. You'll have 2 weeks to do it. Then, once we get all the images, we'll contact Darren, put them in front of Darren. We'll all pick a winner, and Darren will pick his favorites. And then at the next show, at the start of the next show, when we have Jack and Ed on, we'll announce who the winner is going to be. And then we will order the book, and you get a copy of Uncommon Grit, which again, this book is amazing. Seriously, it's that freaking good. It's one of the best photo books I have ever owned.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, so I'm gonna start out with something a little bit. I'm gonna do.
Go for it.
So this is actually what I'm gonna do here. I want to show you. This is how I started photographing right here. This was my daily scene. Okay, this is what I did. There's no sound. I took it out because it's freaking annoying. But this was my job. My job was to video the students out of the aircraft, because that's the only way you're going to learn. You get done, you throw in the video with your HC96, you plug it in, you show them what they did wrong. That's the only way they're going to see. So this was my job every day, 6 to 8 times a day. So that's my hand right there. I got the video on. The guy in the gray, the instructors, the guy that looks like he's escaping from San Quentin, that's a student. There you go. Bam. My job is to keep them in frame, and so they can learn.
So that was for evaluation later to look at to see how they did.
Yeah, we go into like, what the hell did you just do on that jump? I don't know. But I'm
what
always,
are you over here?
I'm
What
always,
land? Where are you?
That's Yuma, Arizona.
Okay.
So I was just proud of the fact that I can keep all that in frame.
Right, and that's where you got started. So is that a helmet cam? So you can't actually see what you're shooting, right?
Yeah, that's an HC9. So it's a helmet, HC96 on the side, and camera.
Right.
So that was my job every day, right? And so after Greg goes right into what is panicking solve. So that's what I did. And that's what prompted me to get into photography, was like, okay, I think that's really cool. I need to figure out how I need to take that picture,
Right.
and that's what started my journey, and then because you got to understand what I'm looking at, and I tell people that. So here's another thing, nice, good example is this is your working room with photography. Now notice the contrast you have inside the aircraft. It's dark. I mean, if you really turn around and look, you needed like a 1.4 at ISO 1600 to really get everything when you're inside the aircraft. And then you go outside, and now you need an F8 ISO freaking 200, or F8 to F11.
Right.
That's a contrasting shot. So how do you get that and fall to the earth going 140 miles an hour at the same time? You have 60 seconds to take your shots. What do you do? So there's your workspace.
So
you don't get to set up lights. You don't get to sit at your settings. This is what you get.
So this is with that helmet cam, right? No DSLRs at this moment.
Yeah, I had a Canon 20D with a 24 to 105 with a 4 gig with a 4 gig SanDisk card. But that's how I learned. And so what I learned is, this is my environment that I learned in. So when I started learning photography, I broke it down. Okay. I broke it down to like a mission statement when you want to learn anything. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Like, so here's a mission statement. Like, this is you remember I'm military. So this is what I know. I know mission statements. So like, this is from SEAL Team 3, deploys forces to conduct special warfare, PACOM, AFRICOM, CENTCOM, contingency job plans, blah, blah, blah. All right. That's what Navy SEALs do. Right. And so what do we really do? We have these mission sets right here. Okay. Here's our mission sets. unconventional warfare, direct strategic planning, terrorism, special recons, foreign, FID, information warfare, security, counter drug, personal recovery, hydroreconnaissance. You know, we have to be experts at every one of those things. Okay.
Right.
And
right.
so, and it breaks down to this. You get a mission objective, operation order, warrant number 2 is leader in order, and execute the mission. Okay. So that's my mindset. So I looked at that and I want to take a picture. What do I need to do? Well, my mission. Stand in the open ramp and take a picture, hang on the wall. Bam. That's what I wanted to do. That was in my head. That's what I want to do, you know? And so I'm like, okay, how do I do that? Easy. I break it down to what I wanted to do. Learn and understand the art of photography, the function of a camera and the lens, the digital darkroom, and printing. And every one of those was a pain in the ass to learn, and it's a constant learning battle. But I broke it down like I would a Navy SEALs, like, this is what I need to do. This is what I need. There's no shortcuts. There's no easy way to do it. This is how you do it. And this is how I got to learn it. And that's how you go. And so that's what we learned. And I took those steps from there.
So that takes you into when you get to the actual on the ground training, like a lot of the pictures in the book, some of the access that you had still amazes me. So
yeah.
like the ones in the pool, there's the one shot with the toe in the pool that just still blows my mind when I think about it.
Yeah.
Are you working at that point as an instructor? Or are you just a photographer focused on the shot?
Oh, I was an instructor too. I actually got after that, I got actually stationed over there for my last year over at Bud's as an instructor. But that was I was an instructor and kind of do that on the side, you know, as well. So you know, that's where we were with that. When I first started learning this was an absolute freaking pain. You know, it was like a horrible pain to learn it. And so I don't think I really have.
What would you advise anybody that's struggling with their photography today? Like, you know, we all have slumps, and we all have, you know, self-doubts about whether our work is any good or who's going to like our work. And like you said in the beginning, you know, you were told just to create for you. I mean, there's a lot of people now we're having a hard time just being creative enough just to go out and shoot. I mean, what do you suggest?
Well, that's a great, actually, you know what? Steve's doing it better. I mean, you can actually, stop my screen share because this actually
there's the shot right there.
There you go. There it is. Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. Look at his toe. Yeah. I used to call it Toby Bryant. Yeah. Until Kobe passed away. So I can't use Toby Bryant anymore. But that's just a blister. That's what your feet look like in first phase. Your feet literally fall apart. Chunks of your flesh will fall apart in first phase. So, so when I did all this, I went in, okay, not only was I a student here, now I'm a photographer, and I know I just know what is a compelling shot, because in my head, with all the things that I remember through Buds that were excruciating during SEAL training, and now I'm watching them, it's like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. And I didn't want to treat this project like somebody just taking a photo, because I've seen photos that were taken of SEAL training, and it's exactly what it is. Somebody standing there taking a photo. Okay. And that's all it is. You're just snapping pictures. You're not doing photography. Okay. Because they don't know what the hell they're looking at, you know? And so to me, I know exactly what people are looking at, and I know exactly what I was looking at, and I know exactly how to make that feel the way it is. So that's how I had not only access to all that, but I basically had 3 cameras. I had a 5D Mark II with a 14 millimeter lens inside an Aquatica housing. That was for everything I did in the water, in the ocean, in the pool, everything. The camera I had in my hand at all times, running behind the guys, doing stuff, was a 5D Mark III with a 24-105 lens. And long shots like that, I had a Canon 1DX with a 100-400 on it at all times. So we do an evolution on the beach. They had running. I had the bag right there. Like, oh, all right, well, this guy looks like he's gonna be in some peril. Let's go photograph him. So kind of know what you're looking at. To go back to what you originally were talked about was old school bridge and everything. It's like, and I talked with Steve about it. That's how I learn. And so I want to share everybody. And then it goes back to your original point. What do you tell photographers? It's like, look, man, there's three different things we're talking about here. Number one is how I learned was backwards. Okay. Cause I didn't have any money, right? I mean, we're in the military. I don't know what you guys think, but you had no money. Plus, I was unhappily married with 2 kids. I mean, I was broke. So I knew what I had to do. I showed you guys my mission objectives and how to get there. And so I'm like, how do I do this? And so I just started Googling, how to take a picture. I remember how to take a picture, and it's like film or digital. I'm like, what? There's two kinds, and so so I started going, and I started writing everything. I had 3 notebooks. I'm like, okay, this is camera, but everything I did with camera said, well, in your digital darkroom, I'm like, well, crap, now I'm gonna learn at the same time, and I'm starting to learn all this stuff. And it's tough. It was, but I remember buying a hacked version of CS2. My first book I bought, actually 2 of them. One was Understanding the Digital Camera, which is a small little book from Scott Kelby, I believe, and the other one was another Scott Kelby book, was Photoshop CS2 recipes or something like that. And I just started going through and I would take notes. And then I found lynda.com. I'm like, oh, thank God. It's not tutorials. So I'm like, okay, so now we're starting. And it would take me 6 to 7 months. Okay. During 6 to 7 months before I even got a camera strapped onto my head to take pictures, because that's how long that learning process took to finally understand how to do it. And it was long. And like I said, yeah, I went from there to bridge to, camera raw to editing, and then output, and so a lot of process. But you know what? It's what I talk about is you have to master the basics. And if anyone's asking me, what can I do? And I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. You need to be the goddamn expert and to master those freaking basics of the camera, digital darkroom, and output. If you're not, guess what? You're gonna run into some problems, and you're not gonna know how to troubleshoot. You're not gonna know how to fix it. You won't, and that's what I found when I was learning. If I'm going to tell everyone right here what pissed me off the most, you want to see me pissed off as a Navy SEAL, is tell me that, oh, by the way, that setting is just fine. Let's move on. I got that through all of my learning. It was Photoshop, it was camera. One that pissed me off the most, when I get to some places like, well, this is just the setting for your preferences. How it is just fine. Let's move on. Especially the camera. The camera's like, well, here's just the basic stuff. Don't worry about that. Just move on, because they want to wow you with all the crap that's on the camera and wow you all the crap that's in Photoshop. It's like, look, man, tell me what I need to know now to make this happen. And they always went around all that. And I'm like, damn, and so that was the most frustrating part. And I segue that into the leadership speech that I give. It's like, look, the worst thing people can do in leadership positions is to tell people that's the way it's done. Well, that's the way it's always been done. You don't need to do that. Just do this. And it boils down to a couple things. Number one is that you don't know it, which is the most likely of scenarios, because somebody told you that same thing and you just regurgitating to somebody else. Number two is you got an ego problem. You don't want to tell them because you're afraid if you do tell them, now they know exactly what you know and they might do it better than you. Okay. And number three, they're just too lazy to freaking tell you. And I found that every time I found that problem through my learning process, whenever I had a problem, it goes back to some tutorial or something that blew it off. Just keep this on a value tab. Don't worry about it. Just move on. Don't worry about this. Just move on. Well, what happens when your camera starts to break? What happens when there's a function on there that all of a sudden everything is only focusing everything to the right and you have no idea how to fix it? Or just all those little knobs on there. If you want sport, just keep it on that little guy that's running. It's like, why? Sport. Like, give me why. It's like I hate
Steve it. Steve photographs concerts. I photograph weddings. I've been doing it 30 years. I started in film. I'm good. I'm good at my gear. He takes me to a concert and I lose my mind because I can't predict what's happening. But my gear was not getting in my way. And one of the things I hear you what you hear you saying is like, I could focus on the stage now because I didn't have to worry about figuring out my lens or my lighting or whether I was in the right setting or not. I could just focus here. I minimized the distractions or the problems. That helped a lot. So, you've lived, and I think it was Mary made a comment. She says the fact that he lived that training certainly comes through in his images. That's because you learned everything, right? Like you saturated yourself in it.
Detail.
And that's great. That's great advice for anybody.
Yeah.
So you had said, Darren, there was a story on this image here.
Yes, that guy right there. So that poor guy, I still remember his name too. So he was having a bad day. He actually has a twin brother. They look exactly alike. I don't know which one this one was, but when you see someone getting ready to quit, I mean, yeah, you see it. I mean, when people start SEAL training, you're getting about 20 a day, for the first week, that's exaggeration. The first day you'll get about 20, second day, 10, third day. The first week you'll lose probably about 50 guys. Next week, maybe half. Then going into Hell Week, you lose some more. But anyway, as I digress, this guy ran in behind the boats. He started slacking, and I'm like, okay, there's a look. So when you get ready to quit, you go over to the ambulance. The medic checks you out, makes sure that you're cognitively okay to get about the decision you're about ready to make, kind of like signing a will on your deathbed. It's like, are you okay to sign this will? And that's what we do to make sure he's hydrated, make sure he's not passing out. And I knew that. I saw him, so I zipped all the way around to the truck. I went across the sandburn. I went 100 to 400. Saw right at him. I was like, "Yep, he's about ready to quit." And I yelled his name, and he just looked right up at me. He's like, because that's the look that I wanted. I wanted that look of someone that just spent I don't know how many years of his life training for this one freaking moment, and he just let it go because he was tired. And so to me, that's why that one's like, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like when you just had that oh shit moment. I can't do this, and then you go away. And so it's timing. I know what's going to happen. I'm like, well, it kind of gives me a little bit of advantage, So that's knowing your subject and know what's going to happen. That's why a lot of those are compelling like that, because I know the moments and I see them when they're getting ready to happen. So
right. You in one of the we had a little brief outline that you had sent, and you had a couple statements in there that I really, really like, and I'd like you to expand on them just a little bit. I'll save my favorite one for the last. But you say in there, plan your shoot and shoot your plan. I think we've heard that kind of thing before. That makes sense. It's more common sense, I think, than anything, right? But it's what we need. But you say never let emotion get in the way.
Yes.
And I'm curious where that comes from, because I think that statement means something different for everybody.
It does. And first of all, it goes in missions, so we're going to go into SEALs a little bit. There's nothing worse than, some of your guys getting killed, or some of your partner forces getting killed, like Marines that you're deployed with, and then you get really pissed off. And then you get an order where exactly who killed them, what freaking house they're in, what building they're in, what hooch they're in. And now we're going to go get these fucking guys right now. We're going to go get them. It's like, no, we got to have a warning order. We got to have a PLO. We got to this, it. And then you're just so jacked up because you want to go freaking get them because it just killed your guys. Right. So now, but there's a process. You can't just go do it, and same thing with photographing, man. You find yourself doing, I've been in the air where I see something happening. Oh, I'm going to get this shot. I'm going to get this shot, and then you all of a sudden your Cypress is going off. Okay. Your Cypress is basically your last resort. It is a little machine that is this freaking big that goes into your reserve parachute, and you go through 3 levels. Okay. You have a ditter, okay, a protract that's in your ear that is set at 2,500, 2,000, 1,500. At 2,500, that's a beep. You need to be pulling. You better pull now, When it gets to 2000, it goes as loud screech. It's like, it's like, you better be pulling. And then by the time it gets to 1500, you don't hear anything because it launched your reserve for you. Because basically it's saying that you're dead. We got to launch this freaking parachute out of your back. And you're probably going to break every bone in your body when you crash down to the freaking ground. But hey, at least you're alive, you know? So I've had my Cypress pulled twice. Not by me, because I'm so into a shot that I'm going down. I want to get, I'm like, boom. I'm like, oh, you idiot, you know? And so that's what happens. You take that situation awareness out because you're so focused on getting something, and you're like, okay, stop, you know, back up, you know, you may not get it. It's okay. You know, concentrate what's around you, you know, actively participate and save your own life. You can get a shot later. And a lot of that happens, I see, just by pure accident, watching people photograph stuff. I mean, look at all the people that die taking selfies.
Yeah,
that's situational awareness. You know, you got emotion. I really have to get this shot. Oh yeah, as you're tumbling down the Grand Canyon. You know, I hope you got the shot. You know, it's like things like that. Yeah. You know, so that's what emotion happens, and you know, and you lose focus, and that goes along with situational awareness when you're a photographer, man. It's like, hey, head on a swivel, man. I mean, you look around, see what's happening all around you. You know, I mean, you got your model there. It's like, hey, keep pushing them out. I do have a funny story with exactly that. And that's why I put that in there. Number one, SEALs. Number two, what I've done. But number three, I've seen it. This is actually a pretty funny story. It's like, I was on the beach with a buddy of mine. Just got back from deployment. We're sitting down and I see it, because what I do is, when you're SEALs, you situation watch everything. And when you're on the beach, you watch the water. That's your SEALs. What we do, we watch the waves coming in, we watch the rip tides are, we watch if the tide's coming in, if it's going out, where the high water line is, low water line is. You watch the sets coming in. And it's just what you do, because that's our insertion at night. You know, we have to know all that stuff. So there's a pier there, and just happened to look over, and there's a dude there, you know, and he's photographing a model. Okay. And his Pelican case is like right up next to him, like an idiot. I'm like, wow, that dude's Pelican case is literally right next to him. I'm like, wow, that guy. And I thought to myself, maybe I should go over there and tell him something. But you know what? No photographer likes the stranger to tell them that they're doing something wrong in the middle of a photo shoot. Trust me. And so I just kind of watched, but I saw what he was doing, because the model that he had was, we'll just say, was very top heavy, structurally unsound in my book. But I saw what he was trying to do, because he kept on pushing her out into the waves, and he was waiting for a big wave to crash on her back and spill everything out. He's trying to get that splash shot, right? You know, for whatever he was doing. And he was just looking right through it. He was just looking, and he wasn't looking around. He wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing creative shots. He was just like target fixated from like probably here down, and that was it. You know, trying to get a wave to splash. So he keeps pushing her out. She's getting splashed by these waves. I see the set coming in. I'm like, oh boy, they're about ready to get hammered, you know, and he's oblivious. This wave comes in and just smashes her into the ground. The wave hits him, push, and then bam, that wave engulfs his entire Pelican case that's open with all his gear and washes it right out. So he's looking for all this stuff. He falls in the water. There's his camera's done, this and that. She's pissed off because she just got smacked down. So she's walking off all furious. He lost all of his stuff. And I'm like, yep.
Not coming.
Well,
don't get emotional. But no way,
here's the thing.
You're
shooting in environments most people don't.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're shooting in extreme environments. First of all, sand is one of the things that will scratch almost anything. Then you not only have water, but you have salt water.
Oh, yeah, it's worse.
So when you're obviously underwater, you're using an underwater housing. But when you're just shooting on the beach, there's still a risk of lenses getting scratched.
Oh, yeah.
The only time I've ever had a phone scratch is because of sand at the beach.
Oh, yeah. It's brutal.
So when you're shooting in these type of environments where you're having to get down and dirty, where you're getting, you know, crazy shots.
Yeah.
What are your tips for keeping your gear, other than don't leave your Pelican case open in the surf? What are your tips for keeping your gear from being destroyed in these environments? Because a lot of people go to the beach and want to shoot, or go to, you know.
Well, it's, you know, number one, have a plan. Number two, probably the biggest thing is take care of your gear, because the gear takes care of you. You're a photographer, right? You make money at it. You make money how? With the gear. Well, you better freaking take care of it. And that's the same thing in the SEAL teams. All of our gear keeps us alive. And so there's no way that we just go into a mission, firefight, whatever the hell we're doing, and then get done and just throw it away and like throw it down on the ground and get it later. It's like, no, man, we'll spend 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning prepping, getting it ready again, cleaning it up, getting ready, and moving on. We'll change out IV bags, change out batteries, load each magazine, put oil. I mean, just there's so many things that we do, because that's our gear. It's going to keep us alive. The same mindset with my camera gear. It's like, hey man, this is your gear. Okay. It's putting money on the table for you to do what you love to do. Okay. So why are you going to treat it like crap? Okay. And when you get to the beach, it's like, it's going to be sandy, it's going to be a harsh environment. So it's like, you take care of it. I mean, it's like, for me, it's like, I know sand's going to get in here, but as soon as I got done with the shot, I was back in the truck cleaning it, getting all the sand off, because you can't keep the sand off your gear. I'm sitting in a truck. I roll up all the windows. I put a parka over my head. I pop the mirror open. I look in it with my loop and I clean the sensor, put it back. Okay. That's all clean, ready to go. Let's do another shot, because the sand will kill you. I can't tell you how many pictures you go in digital darker and all of a sudden you got these clumps of dots all over your freaking picture. And you're like,
oh, sand will tear everything up. I mean, I did a lot of shooting at the beach, and sand would get in the back on the 35 millimeter, and it would get between your plate and the film. You had a nice deep groove the entire length of your image, and that was pre-digital. So I learned early to have a lot of respect for that.
You got to take care of your gear pre, during, and post,
right?
Especially when you're in a harsh environment. That's what I've always done. Is what I'm used to. But just people, just like, oh, it's just a camera, just pick it up and use it, and then you're gonna wonder why it doesn't function one day. Why you do an entire photo shoot and get done, go to your dark room, and all of a sudden you find this big glob right in the middle of every photo. It's like, well, gee, wonder what happened there. And I've seen it. I'm just because I've seen it. It's like, look, man, situation awareness, take your gear, it's taking care of you. And you better be target fixated and force attuned to your gear every shot you take, especially when you go into harsh environments, man. I'm telling you, it's mandatory. It's part of your photo shoot, taking care of your gear.
Yeah. Tell us about that image that Steve is showing right there. Not just what's happening. No, go back, Steve, to the one with the logs. So not just what they're doing, but from your standpoint as a photographer stepping into that space, did you choose the lens before you got there, or did you have to work with what you had on the camera? Like, just tell us about what happened there.
Okay. So when we're going through a day of SEAL training, day of buds in first phase. So each day there's evolutions. So I look at the evolution chart. I already know what we're doing. We got the schedule. So let's say morning 04 to 06 is going to be grinder PT, breakfast, come back, log PT, O course, surf passage, afternoon pool, drown proofing, things like that. So there's 4 evolutions a day. So I know what's happening. So I know that, okay, we got log PT today. We have grinder PT in the morning, but also second phase has pool comp. Remember, I'm doing like all phases. So then I'll go do pool comp, and then third phase has something to do in land nav on the beach. I'll go hit them and I'll come back. But for me, it's like, okay, I want to do some log PT today, and I want to use my 14 millimeter, because I wanted some really close-up shots like that one. Because for me, it's like, I just really wanted, I like the 14 mil. I love the fisheye, but you just can't use it all the time like anything else. It's like, don't get over exaggerated with them. I think, like I said, it creatively has a purpose, and this is the purpose right here, because I wanted you guys to see, the strain that these guys have. That's a 400-pound log, all 7 of them. They actually ran 6 miles with this, called the long mile, which is actually kind of funny. They got to run 6 miles with this 400-pound log, all around the O course, and it's basically all afternoon. I mean, it's like a 4 or 5 hour evolution. When you can't put it down, you got to keep it up and keep running. And so to me, it's a grueling evolution, but I loved the grittiness of it. I love watching the teamwork, the communication between everybody. All guys in the second log behind them are like struggling. you know, and that's what I wanted people to see, but also it's a different perspective, you know, and that was for me, because when you see a lot of pictures of SEAL training, everything else, it's like, it's the same thing. People just standing there looking at it, just snapping a photograph. It's like, no, man, there's a lot that's go into this, and that there is a time and place where you have to use a creative lens, and it can really make an image pop, and you see things that you don't see as long as it's not overused.
Yeah, I love the fisheye. That's one of my favorite lenses. One of your other statements that you have in here, and I think it ties into maybe what you were talking about, says that if it's stupid but it works, then it's not stupid.
Bingo.
I gotta say, that's some genius shit right there. That's really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Where does that come from?
I'm telling you. Okay, this is a great story, and you guys are gonna love this one. So, in my journey with being a SEAL and photography, people always ask me about, how I shot, and what I found is everyone that I would tell them how I shot in the airport. So we're going to go back to the airplane. Remember the high contrast? I just went back and forth. It's like, there's only one way to do that. And it's that one setting that nobody uses, which is TV, shutter priority. And everybody that I talk to in like photography conferences, or their photographers, oh, how'd you get that? Well, I have to shoot shutter priority. And they giggle, like they give this like sneer of derision, like, you use what? Like all of a sudden I'm this peon in photography. It's like, hey, this guy uses TV. It was like that. And like, I mean, it's seriously, if you open up the Canon manual, it should say, here's what you want to shoot, but TV, no, that's just for McBee. All you other people use this stuff, this is just for McBee. Don't worry about it. And it was one of those ones like we talked about with the rules. Like no one's never wants to, no, you'll never use that. You'll use average priority, you'll never use that. And like, oh, that's freaking stupid. You'll never use that. I'm like, bullshit. That's the only way you can get photographs for me, because like you said, you're looking inside an aircraft and it's dark. 1.4 at ISO 1600 will give you inside the aircraft. Okay, you look outside, f8 to f11 at 200. And not to mention the fact you're looking at the sun and you go dark, sun, down, and now you're looking down, which can easily be an ISO 400 at 5.6. That whole range of exposure values, you can't control any of that. I don't care who you are. So I'm like, all right, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on TV. I'm going to set my shutter speed at 800. I'm setting my ISO at 400. And the Canon had one thing that was really, really interesting, which is why I use it. Because if back in the old ones, like the 30D, I went to the 20D, 30D to 5D. If you put the on all the way to the top and you pressed the shutter release down half, you got exposure compensation on the wheel right on top. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, remember that? If you guys Canon shooters in here, you had that feature. And so what that meant was when I came out and flew down to my student, and if I flew through clouds, I knew I smacked down on my bite switch, which went all the way up to my shutter release, and I do half of it down. And while I'm flying, getting a shot, I go up 2 clicks right, 1 over, 2 clicks, 4 clicks back, 1 under. And I would do that while I'm flying. I do exposure conversation going 145 miles an hour through clouds. Yeah, that's why you use TV.
I don't think that example can be under exampled. I'm trying to think of a clever word. It didn't work. But knowing
can't be
gear,
overemphasized.
Emphasize, yes. You need to know your gear. You need to be intimate with your gear. And Darren, when you talk
about gear.
Right. And when you talk about using TV or aperture priority or whatever, learn all those things and then choose to use time value or aperture value or whatever. Don't just do what somebody else says, unless Darren tells you to do it. Then you do what he says.
I'll tell you what to do. You got to learn everything first. Then I'll tell you what I do. But that was part of my learning process. I remember sitting in the back of the C-130 with a stack of index cards, because that's how I learned in college. I do stack, and I would sit there and I grab a stack in the morning, I'd put it in and I go into work. There are things I needed to do, get up in there, and it's like if I'm like the third lift or third pass, I know I got at least 40 minutes of sitting there. and I'll just go back and all right, let's see, what did I pull out today? Oh, I'm doing a Photoshop, the edit pull down menu. Okay.
Nice.
You know, and then that's how I learned. But you need to know that, because number one, if something goes wrong, you got to be able to troubleshoot. Okay. And number two, once you know everything that you need to know, then you can narrow down what you really need, and then you can forget everything else. But I'm never going to tell anyone you don't need to know that, ever. Like another example is like I thought, how in the hell do you get that starburst out of the sun? Where, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's not just thing. It's like, it's got nice little sharp little things that looks like Christmas time. You know, it's on the, it's, oh, that's, how do you guys get that? I look at the sun every damn jump, and every time I look at the sun, it blows it out. How come? Oh, that's right, because it was one of those settings I was told to blow off, and don't worry, you'll never use it.
Right.
It was called spot. You know, and I did it by accident. And not only that, if people are telling you that, then they're limiting your creativity. You know, and it's just something that I learned too. And so, plus you got to do function checks on everything. It's like when I go in a photo shoot, I do the same thing every freaking time. You know, my camera, I know what I'm going to shoot. I make sure I have all my batteries, and I'll go through every menu item that I know to make sure, okay, there it is. Bam. I'm shooting camera raw. Yes. Bam. Okay. My auto, my ISO, my white balance is auto in case I want to use something else, which I have, because it's fun to experiment. You know, and I go through, I make sure my CF card, if there's subs in there, look through them. If not, format it, make sure that side, make sure, by the way, my lens is on autofocus, you know, make sure everything is good that I need it to be. I'm going to start at ISO 400. Here's my lens. This is what I want to do. I got to make sure I'm an A servo or AI or one shot. You say where it is, you know, make sure everything is exactly right, because if you go wrong, you can go back, you can troubleshoot and figure it out, you know, and that's what I do with everything. That's being a SEAL. That's like, hey, you know, my life, you know, and as a SEAL, my life is in danger if I don't take the time to do this, and I got to do it right, because other guys are counting on me. And the same thing when you're doing a photo shoot. Hey, these people are counting on me to take this shot, especially those big clients that are paying you the big money to do it. So you can't screw it up, because you can let them down, and you got to make sure you do it right.
Well, and actually, Freddie asked a good question related to what you just said, excuse me, which is, are you still able to photograph the SEALs? Or for that matter, you know, are you still taking pictures, whether it be something like this or something else?
Like I said, when I got done with the SEAL program, no, I don't take pictures of that anymore. That project is done. And I moved on. It's funny. It's like, I haven't really taken a lot of photos lately, which is kind of weird, you know, but people probably think that I'm like jam packed with clients, but I'm not. I'm just picky. And it's not that I'm a snob by any means, but I did learn one thing through photography, is the fact that if I don't get excited by my work, how am I supposed to get other people excited about it? You know, and there's a lot of jobs that I probably could have that I just turn away. And it's just the fact that I'll never do a wedding, because I see that would be a nightmare. So my kudos to you that you're a wedding photographer. I don't know how you do it. I just don't. I'm like, I can't do that. But I got to be excited about the project. I got to be like excited about what I'm doing, and so I'll pick and choose little things that I want to do, that because if I really enjoy this project and I love doing it, then you're going to get McBee's everything, and you're going to be happy with the end result, you know, because I have to be excited about it. And I think there's a lot of photographers out there that are going through the grind, but they're photographing crap that they don't want to photograph. And then what happens is you get complacent, and you start losing your focus, because I don't really want to do the shoot, but I need the money, so I got to do it. And then you start making mistakes, you know. And so to me, to keep me visually going and my energy going with my imagination, because we're artists, you know, and so everything, you just keep doing it over and over again, you're going to get burnt out. And so I'll choose different things that get me excited. And so the client is going to get a good product, and I'm happy that I'm doing it, and I'm love to share it. Does that make sense?
So what's next for you? Do you have a project in the works?
I have, yes and no. I've kind of moved away from photography, as a matter of fact. Not that I dislike it or any means, but as being retired, getting into speaking, which is a lot of fun. I'm doing a lot of like I said, the book is selling, but I'm collaborating with a lot of other SEALs. I'm doing other projects as nothing to relate with photographs whatsoever, with designs, with t-shirts, moving different directions and other things, and a lot of it is not because I dislike photography. I just think people want a lot more from photographers nowadays, and to the point that they're just ridiculous in what they ask for. They really are.
True that.
I'm like, you know what? I can't tell my times. You know what? Just take it with your iPhone. I get big. What Pelican case is one. There's one Pelican case. They hit me up on Instagram. They're like, hey, we love all your stuff, blah blah blah. And we'd love to. Here, we'll send you $1,500 of our gear. You photograph it for us, and we'll mutually share it on our social media platforms. It'll be your influencer program. I'm like, so let me get this straight. I've been a SEAL for 24 years. I have literally everything we have is Pelican case, even down to my CF card holder is Pelican case. Okay, right here. And you want to send me Pelican case stuff to photograph, and my payment is going to be putting it on my social media for you, but you get to keep the stuff. I don't need it, and I get that. I'm like, well, post it for him. Like, no. And that's what I find too. People just like think that the world of photography is just because of all the social media. It's just, hey, it's a free fall for everybody. Yeah, I'll take that. Here, we'll give you your stuff. I'm like, no, thanks. And you get these management expectation that you try to tell people, and they have their own world that they live in. I'm like, no, dude, we're artists, man. This is a craft. It is a skill set craft. And if you're good at it, then you get paid for it. And if you want to half-ass it, not pay anybody and expect so much more out of people, it's like, realize, hey, I want you to do this, but also I want video editing, I want photographs, I want these, I want that. And you're like, and you only want to pay what? Yeah, bye.
Right. Because there's people out there doing all that stuff in every industry. Yeah, my industry, in concerts, it's getting out of hand. So this is not snapshots. This is art.
No, that's the whole point. And I don't care what anybody says, you can't do both. You can't do triple. It's like, you can't be really good at this thing and be really good at that thing and have a quality product. Something along that line is going to fall. It's going to be really good photography, but the other two are going to be bad. You can be mediocre at all three of them, and guess what product you're going to get? Mediocre. You get really good at one, that product's going to be good, but the other two are going to be mediocre. Okay, you can't do all three. I mean, period.
The value triangle.
Yeah, and so that's the way it is, and people just don't want to pay for it. They just, I want all this stuff. I was like, well, in my world, excellence is a standard, but you can do your mediocrity crap because that's what you want to pay for. Feel free. I'm going to go do something else.
Troy, you want to open mics up?
Yeah, I'm going to open up. So I'm going to go ahead and ask everybody. Everybody can unmute, and you can unmute yourselves. And
this light is still on. I'm excited about that. That thing is like, the other day I was on doing a podcast and it went out, which is weird.
Yeah. And you guys can also turn on your video if you want to show us your smiling faces. I see a couple people.
This was one of my favorite pictures in the book.
Oh yeah, that was one of my favorites too, by the way. As long as everybody can still see Ripley in the background. Can everybody still see Ripley? There she is. Yeah, that's my favorite photographs. That is awesome because that is Wednesday morning of Hell Week. You're basically on your legs, on your feet, running, since Sunday evening, and you still got all the way to Friday to go. So
the guy on the left looks like he is dying. The guy on the right looks like he's freezing. The guy in the back looks like he wants to give up, but the guy in the front in the middle is like, what else you got?
He's like, bring it on.
Yeah.
And
that to me is every reaction you could have in one photo.
Yep. It is perfect because every one of those guys made it through. Made it through Hell Week at least. And it's like, you can see the emotion in all three of them. On that whole group, you got guys back there that are like, I'm literally going to die. It's like, yeah, probably. Then you got the guy that's like, what's next? And some people Hell Week didn't phase them. Some people struggled all the way through, just it's mindset.
So if everybody wants to go to IEPPV.com, I'm going to type it in the chat, v.com/contest, and this will go out in an email to anybody who attended later in the week. But if you want to send an image, go to that address, submit an image. It has to be a storytelling image, and you have to impress this man. He's over
which
there.
ain't gonna be easy.
No, wait, he's over there for me. You have to impress Darren McBee, because he's gonna pick the winner.
I am gonna pick the winner, but I tell you, one thing I do like, and I'll be honest with everybody, is I love looking at other people's photography. I know it's kind of weird, but the world is just so full of creative people. I'm like, damn, how did you get that? Damn. It's like I feel about this big when I get done like browsing just on Instagram, all the black and white accounts that are out there. And I'm like, oh God. Just shake my head. I'm like, how in the damn, that's freaking good.
Well, Instagram is a collection of everybody's bests.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
it's a highlight
everybody's every day. I mean, when I shoot a wedding, I shoot 2,500 images. I narrow it down to 700, and I might share 2 that I think are like the best of the whole shoot. But my couple loves the 500 or 700 images, right? Like they get their image, they build their book. But the world doesn't get to see those because they're normal, I guess.
That is a lot of images. Wow, that's a lot of editing, man. That's freaking awesome. It's like I got to do one wedding once, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I'm like, no, I need 3 photographers, period. I need one for the bride. I need one for the groom. I need one for all those pictures. And then, and then the only pictures that count in the whole freaking wedding are impressing the guy that's freaking paying for the freaking thing. So that's the guy you got to impress, not anybody else.
But I think that it what you talked about earlier about being prepared and knowing your environment and watching your environment. Steve shoots concerts. He sees stuff that the musician's going to do before he starts photographing, which way he's going to turn, or the guitarist. Like, I don't see that stuff at a wedding. I can see the future. I can see the groomsman who's going to be a pain in the ass, or who's going to be fun to photograph that day. You look at, your team, right? You look at your kids or whoever's there, and you're like, oh, that guy he's going to be somebody I need to watch, because you can see the future.
Yep.
Right? You've been doing it for so long. And that talks about throwing yourself into that environment. A good friend of mine, Low Bass Guy, who's in the chat or in the channel, he photographs a lot of reptiles and insects, and he goes out into nature, and he echoed what you talked about, was you need to know your environment, because for him, when he's out in the jungle, it's not really the jungle. It's
it's a swamp.
Okay. It's a swamp, but you might be photographing a spider here, and there's a cottonmouth down there. But he's thinking of that as he's shooting. I'm not going to think of that, So
you guys are all unmuted. So anybody got any questions for Darren before we close out the contest?
Question. It was just an amazing talk, though. What an amazing career of photographing and working pretty much on the fly, from one inside to outside, up in the air and down on the ground. So it's just an amazing career time frame.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate that. It's been quite the ride, but in the end, I never thought I would create a book. And I got into photography because I wanted to take a picture to hang on my wall with something I thought was cool. And I stayed true to that vision. But the big thing is I never had a goal. It's like, I'm going to make money off this. This is what I'm going to do to make money. That thought never crossed my mind ever. I never thought that I'd be a professional photographer. I never thought that would be my path ever. It's like, so to me, when I want to take a picture of something, it's like, I want it because I want that photograph. And so it just so happens that that path, for a long time, I never got any clients. I didn't do it. And when you get one or two, and but as I went on in my career and retired, I got some big clients, and which is nice because having those uh, um, big paychecks come in for your photographs, that's nice. But
Right.
also with that, it's your, I tell people all the time, what's your definition of success? And I'll ask that to people, especially in the bigger conferences that I talk to with corporates, and I say, hey, what's your definition of success? And of course, a lot of them have to do with monetary things, how much they own, money, cars, pools, power. That's all to them as success. And I'm like, for us in the SEAL teams, success is your reputation, period. If we screw up in the SEAL teams, the whole world knows about it. But when we do something good, everybody knows about it. And there's an expectation for us that everything we do is going to be excellent. And so when I get a client, they know that they're going to get an excellent product, but that's a lot of pressure on me to make sure that we do it right, which is fine because I know I'm going to give them a correct product, because in the end, it's my reputation, that's on the line, no matter how much money people are paying you to do a photo shoot. And in the end, I treat one of the things, my biggest caveat advice to tell everybody is simply this: you treat every photo shoot that you do like it's your last one, period. You're never going to do it again. So this is your mark that you're leaving on the world right here. And that's why I've always walked into every photo shoot, because I don't know if I'm going to get another one. I just don't, and we all don't. We think we will, but something could happen, like 2020. Right. Where no one's doing anything.
I thought I was going to shoot 15 weddings last year, but I didn't. So,
yeah. And you never know. And so and I always said to myself, it's kind of like, kind of like in the SEAL teams, your last mission, you're only as good as your last mission. Your reputation is always good as your last mission. And I'm always good as my last photo shoot. And to me, to get this end state, to have a book that is successful, that it's out there, it's my name stamped on it, and this is what you get. You get the best of anything that I can do. Like, I can't do any better than that. And that's what's out there. And I can hang everything up. I can walk away. And I know that my vision to start, I completed it, and I got a bonus, and I did something that I gave the world, and I can walk away happy. Nothing worse than walking away with a shitty photo shoot, and then your reputation is you did something crappy, and then you don't get to shoot again. You're like, shit.
Accountability, right? It's really simple,
right?
Yes. It's really simple. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you push the button, you own it, live up to it. If it sucks, fix it. Yep. So
exactly. So I'm very it's been a privilege to be able to do that, and knowing what you can do if you really put your mind to it. And as I move on to other things, this journey was such an incredible journey, and it was so much fun to do. It was trying at times, but in the end state, it's like, here we are.
Dwayne is asking, do you have a photo that's on your bucket list, like a dream photo op that something you want to go get? You talked a little bit about how you
Yes, I do. Damn. Now it's not even in my head. Thanks a lot. Was it Devil's Canyon out in Moab, in Arizona? The Canyon of Light. Well, what's that place? It's a Moab. Yeah, where Peter Lick. That's his most expensive photo that was bought from him. It was like $7 million or something.
Maybe. There's no proof.
He did it in black and white. I mean, I'm like, really, dude? Everyone does it in colors. Same, you guys know the one I'm talking about. You could probably Google
it. He shot it in color and converted it to black and white, and allegedly sold it for like $7 million.
Yes, that I would love to go in there, and actually, I think I tried to do it like 3 years ago, but they stopped allowing people in there now. I guess so you can't photograph it because there's too many people in there taking the same. To me, it's like, I wanted to do that because it really is. It's a lighting challenge, and you can't have a flash in there. So to me, it would have been great challenged to do that photo, but it's still on my bucket list. I'm a SEAL. If I want that photo, I can break it and get it. So,
well, there's got to be places. I know that there's private property that have slot canyons in them, and they can do whatever they want. So I'm sure you can get that. It has been super awesome having you on here, and you've exceeded every expectation that I ever hoped for.
Well, thank you, man.
If anybody has any other questions, now's the time. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap up right at 7:30.
I have a question for Darren.
Yes,
and it's not
Kim.
necessarily just photography related. So after being a SEAL, which is, I'm sure, extremely exciting at times and very trying at times, what do you do now for excitement in your life? How do you top that?
I'm done with excitement. Is this Kim talking?
Yeah, it's Kim.
Okay, Kim, I'm done with excitement. I'm telling you what, I've been a Navy SEAL. I'm telling you what, that everything we did is high risk. Right. Adrenaline always, like, there's not a single thing we did of like, oh, well, gosh, that was boring. It doesn't exist, so I'm exhausted from excitement. I'm telling you right now, I'm exhausted from it. I mean, I don't need that high anymore, been all over the world, done things that people can't even fathom. Physically, what we've done in missions, the wars, and our training, it's all high risk. There's so many times that I almost died, so I'm okay with no excitement at all, Kim. As a matter of fact, I will sit and I will read my comic books and I'll watch Big Bang Theory and I'll relax, and I have no problem with it whatsoever, and that's just the truth. It's like, people ask me all the time. It's like, I don't need that in my life anymore. It's like, to me, I'm waking up with a cup of coffee, going out and seeing like 100 acres of forest. That to me is like, it's soothing. That's what I like now. So,
the fact that you just made a Big Bang reference just made the world okay.
I missed that show. It was really good.
So do I.
I do. But thank you for that, Kim. I appreciate that.
All right, Steve just threw all of your details into the chat, and of course, all of this is recorded. And when I post the YouTube video, I'll put all of this stuff in the description. So you guys, if you want to be able to get to follow him and on his Instagram and LinkedIn, and
he's active. Darren is really active on Instagram, which is McTeams3842 on Instagram.
Yeah, there's a lot of memes.
Website is DMcBurnett. And the book is uncommongritbook.com. But somebody's going to win the book. So start working on your photos that tell a story.
I'm excited about that.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't posted anything on Instagram lately. I don't know. I've been busy with a project I've been doing with has nothing related with anything. And I need to post some stuff on there.
Well, thank you guys. Thank everybody for being here. Be sure to go check out Darren's website. You can also check out Steve's website, Steve Brazel. Just do a search for Steve Brazel. You'll find everything about him, stevebrazel.com. And me, Spicy Jello. I haven't been posting anything, but there's stuff there. It'll all be in the YouTube description. So everybody have a safe rest of your week. Have an amazing weekend. And we'll look forward to chatting with everybody again. Darren, thank you again so much for being here. Steve,
I appreciate it. Hey, keep sending me these links to this stuff, and I'll jump on and watch. And it's a great time. Thanks for having me on.
You got it.
Thanks for posting all my stuff out there. And it's like I said, it was awesome when I was with Steve. It's awesome to actually talk about photography for a change, which is fun. So maybe you'll see me at a photography conference in a couple of years. I'll be like a keynote.
Yes.
Stuff. Who knows? But
yes, we'll sit down and we'll have a Coors Light.
There you go.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this, my friend. I appreciate it.
Got it, man. Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Good night, everyone.